So here at South Mountain, you can see we're going to head up this trail here. It goes up this hill around there and then around the mountain and then all the way back up here. It's going to be a fun ride. Let's give it a shot. So to be honest, the video that I produced there makes me a little sick when I'm watching it. So I'm going to make it a little smaller and talk to you about some stuff I found. Announcement about a trip that we're going to be doing, and we're just starting the planning phase, but it's going to be awesome. First off, I just want to talk through a little bit of what you're seeing on the video. You can see that I started right down here, and actually that video is taken from this location right here, where this Guadalupe Perimeter Trail comes off of the main Desert Classic and goes up the mountain and then loops back, goes through this saddle, comes around, and then you can go all the way to this helipad, which I have no idea why there's a helipad there. Having done that today, it was a heck of a climb, and you can see it in the video. It's a lot of climbing. So I was curious, the amount of climb that we were doing. And it turns out that it is only about 350 feet of elevation change, and it's almost all up. There's a little bit of a downhill right here. Everything else is straight uphill as you are getting here. And it's pushing the board a little bit. I have an X7 with X10 rails with a BTG Thundercat tire. That's a great board, but it definitely does have a little bit of struggle, especially right here where it's really steep, and at this point where it's really steep. The rocks are very loose, and so it skids out a lot, so I have to lower my PSI, running about 6 PSI to make it up that trail. Well, the reason I'm looking at the elevation really has to do with this question of, can we do this trail? And we have a trail that goes around Phoenix that is, if you do all the trails, it's about 340 miles long. And more specifically, if you only do the loop itself, it is about 220 to 240 miles long. And we were looking at, could we do this in a day? Just want to mention that's probably not possible, but I really see this and immediately say, man, I want to do something awesome, and this looks awesome. If you know Phoenix at all, you can tell this goes from the very bottom to the very top. It goes from the far west to the far east. It is a heck of a ride to go around this whole city that is so spread out, and you do quite a bit of crazy stuff up here near Bronco, and also the same thing down here near South Mountain. Both of those are very difficult portions of the trail. Other portions of the trail they're just following the canals, and the canals are not that big of a deal. They're pretty flat, and you can click on these and get into the actual trail. See that? This is following the canal. That would be a very fast run. I do want to mention that we have about 6 boards at our disposal. None of them are set up for fast riding like this. They all are BTGs, and they are made really for trail riding. Doesn't mean I wouldn't try it anyway. They're all high torque motors, but it would be a little bit different. We'd have to pump up our PSI when we're on the trails and let it down. The other thing that became obvious, that we would have to have a support vehicle. Luckily, my son is willing to do that for us, and he would have to meet us every 10 to 20 miles, depending upon the terrain. Up here at Bronco, a little concerned that there may not be places where he can actually find us in time for us to shift boards, because some of these climbs are insane. So if you remember, I mentioned that we went up 350 feet today in my climb that you're watching just right down there. This up here, and this is the elevation map, and I will include these in the notes below. This is Bronco right here, and this is the elevation change when you're on this trail. Now look at this, it starts at 2357 and your peak is at 4215. So you quickly do the math, it's almost 2,000 feet climb, or 1874 as it says there, from the bottom of that to the top. I'm looking at that saying, man, that's in 9 miles. I'm not sure what my battery is going to do on a 2,000 foot climb. So when you're looking at this, the question is obviously, can we go far enough that we can find a road and still be able to switch out our boards while my son is going to then be charging them. As a matter of fact, we're looking at a simple, cheap generator to make this happen right here. I also have 2 lithium-ion batteries. One can charge one of the boards once and the other one can charge the board 2 or 3 times. So we would have both of those available to be used so that we could make this happen. And then obviously you kind of want to flip through those and not use the same one over and over. You want to be using different ones, also depending upon the terrain. You know, I think there's just a possibility that we end up stranded in this section right here. That's just one of the sections. I think it is the hardest. If you look on these others, for example, this section is 12 miles long. They say it's difficult, but you start at 37, you peak up here at 42, so you've gained, you know, about 500 feet, and then you lose it all and you start on your way down. So this obviously looks difficult as well. As a matter of fact, it's marked as difficult. This looks doable if we can do this portion of it. Can we do that portion of it? Well, we're going to find out. On February 14th, we're going to go start here and try to do this section from there all the way down to the South Mountain, which would be right here. So it's going to be about 120 miles. It's a heck of a trip, and it's going to get us started and see, hey, is this even possible? Lots of things like changes of shoes, extra parts, obviously being able to pump up or let down our air in our tires is hugely important. But what do you recommend? What do we need? And have you ever done a trip like this all in one day? 120 miles in a day is a long trip and it's not flat. So give me your ideas. Thanks. So you can see through there, we started down there in the valley, came up around that mountain, through this saddle right here, onto the top of this one, and here we are. Made it, just one fall, which honestly had more to do with holding the phone than anything else. Get out and do this, guys. It's a blast.